using different most likely counts for wave structures, and also, of course, technical analysis, different technical indicators like RSI and MACD, etc. So everything has to fit together, because then it increases the probability of good entry and exit enormously.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. We are on location in Thailand, so forgive the less than stellar sound quality, although it still sounds pretty good. The shows I did over the past few days, I don't have my special microphone and all my processing and everything else like that, but nonetheless, it still sounds pretty darn good. This computer, this new Mac, really does a great job. Hey, got somebody for you. I've been reading his newsletter for a while. I think you definitely want to check him out. He's a PhD. He was an academic, but more importantly, he's had experience in the real world as well as the academic world. And his name is Dr. Brana Vojcic. And the name of the newsletter is Bravo Cycles. There'll be a link in the show notes so that you can sign up for it. If you've got a question for him, please send me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Hey, so Brana, it's great to have you on the show. And, you know, you kind of like are a technical guy. You're looking at cycles. You're looking at chart formations, things like that. What is your philosophy of making money in the market?
Well, my philosophy is really looking at these very advanced technical analysis techniques. And I use a multi-pronged approach. I looked at time cycles to see whether the cycle's peaks and troughs expected. Then I also look at cycles price projections. I really want to see that time and price fit together as entry or exit points. And I further verified that by using Elliot Wave Theory analysis, using different most likely counts for wave structures, and also, of course, technical analysis, different technical indicators like RSI and MACD, etc. So everything has to fit together, because then it increases the probability of good entry and exit enormously.
All right. So you mentioned cycles, and a number of people follow cycles out there, and I follow them myself. I'm a big believer in them. But the hardest part is finding when the cycle begins and when it ends. Sometimes you don't know the cycle happened until after it's over, right?
Well, it's possible to estimate cycles with certain accuracy. You could never do them perfectly for various reasons. One reason is that they constantly vary over time. You know, the period of the cycle and often amplitude varies over time, perhaps influenced by a larger or longer cycles from nature or whatever. So also, oftentimes, cycles are not synchronous. In other words, cycles of different periods are not synchronous sometimes, and that makes it harder to estimate what's going on. I use multiple cycle methods, going from traditional ones like Hurst cycle analysis that I'm sure you are familiar with, and centered moving averages, but I have developed a very sophisticated method based on the state-of-the-art in signal processing, so-called time frequency analysis using wavelets. And there I am able to estimate and detect multiple cycles and then find superposition of them that gives me an estimate of where peaks and troughs occur. But obviously, you always have to provide some tolerance because market news could affect, especially some shorter cycles, or some big fundamental news, etc.
So what are some cycles that you follow regularly in your work?
I usually follow whatever is detected, but what I detect is usually cycles like 10, 20 day, 40 day, 80 day, 20 weeks, 40 weeks, up to 18 months, 2 years cycles. These are meaningful for trading and investing, whether on multi-week or multi-month basis. But of course, there are much longer cycles like 18.6 year cycle or sunspot cycle, and other even longer one. And it's an interesting question because this 18.6 year cycle is expected to peak in late 25 or early 26. And also the sunspot cycle is expected to peak in late 25. So stock market usually peaks coincidentally with the sunspot cycle or actually a few months earlier. So that suggests we could expect some major peak in late 25 or early 26.
Interesting. I know there's like an 8-week cycle for gold. I've heard of a 100-year war cycle, 18.6 year for real estate, right? Real estate every 18 years. And that one is uncannily accurate, the real estate cycle, isn't it? I mean, you look
pretty good,
right?
It's pretty good. Variations are maybe, speaking from memory, variations are maybe several months historically, but it's there. And, even a longer, a 100-year cycle, it's also very good. It's a 50-some year cycle, but unfortunately, we have records only for 6 of them, but very, very accurate, plus minus couple of years.
Yeah, so 100 years from 1929 brings us to 2029, and we could very well see an economic collapse. I mean, honestly, my opinion is just looking at the news, we've seen our economic collapse, so we're in the midst of it. And, it's so interesting, though, Brana, that cycles, so much of our life is dictated by cycles, circadian rhythms, sleep cycles, birth, death, and, midlife, old age. And yet, so many of you out there just deny the existence or are unaware that the cycles are even happening.
Yeah, many people are not. By the way, I take a look at my website. I have a very nice presentation about overview of these cycles, especially longer ones. And since you mentioned 29, which is 100 years from 1929 stock market crash, in that presentations you will find that I found several cycles that converge from 29 to early 30s, 32, 33. So that could be a major cycle law in the stock market.
All right. And we've got a link in the show notes to Brana's website and newsletter. It's Bravo Cycles. And just click it. It'll take you right through to it. And so looking ahead here in the short term, in the next 18 months, basically you said this market peaks with the sun cycles, sunspot cycles. I've seen that theory before. And something about human nature we're unpredictable, but when it comes to cycles, we become a lot more predictable. So you think the market's going to continue on its rampage until 2025, 2026, or we're not going to see a collapse? What's your research telling you?
Well, I see market down this year. As a matter of fact, if you were reading my newsletters, you probably noticed that I couldn't find excuses for market going up. I was supporting the last few months since October. But right now, multiple market indexes are in the peak area, and we may have seen the top, yesterday. So what's happening, we should expect a cycle trough in March, April, then bounce into summer, and then another swing down into late 24 or early 25, probably early 25, because there are more indexes that show cycle trough in early 25. And then we should have very strong 25, very strong rebound. Whether that rebound is going to take us to new highs or not, I don't know. It's too early to say, because time cycles don't tell you that. They tell you turning points. But it's going to be strong. 25 is going to be strong here. And then after that, it's going to be down in 27, a strong 28, and then down into early 2030s.
Yeah, hard to believe we're talking about the 2030s here, but it's been around a while, and the years just happen to go by like that. I mean, it's kind of remarkable, like, that these cycles are so prevalent and they're so important, and yet they're so ignored, although the government doesn't ignore it. After the Great Depression, the financial collapse of 1929, the government funded this Institute for the Research of Economic Cycles, and a lot of solid research came out of there. And guys like Elliot Wave, I don't know if you know Dr. Charles Nenner, Martin Armstrong, all of these guys are like that data.
Yeah.
So, so what about the war cycle? Do you track a war cycle?
No, I just read and, look what Armstrong is saying about them. And there are a few other guys that follow war cycles, but I don't. I mean, you couldn't follow everything.
Yeah, there's some cycles. Hey, so what are the most important cycles, not just for your economic well-being, but for your health as well? What are the most important cycles that you should be following?
Well, I haven't explored the relationship to health between cycles and health, but, these planetary cycles, starting from Sun's cycle and Jupiter and Saturn, they are, as longer-term cycles, they are most important for influence on Earth and Earth's electromagnetic field. How that affects our health, I have no idea, but these are the most important cycles for our life. Of course, Mercury and Venus also influence, but they are much shorter cycles.
Yeah, so interesting. So can you share with us some of your, some of the short-term cycles? Like, I know gold has an 8-week cycle. At least I've heard it mentioned before. You follow the precious metals at all?
I do follow precious metals and publish, gold cycles, every month or so. Right now, gold is in a short cycle downturn, but still has some up potential this into summer. But it started actually a long-term cycle, I think, last year. Now, speaking from memory, I think an 8-year cycle or 4-year cycle. I couldn't say with 100% accuracy. But speaking about commodities, I think the natural gas is very interesting because it's going to start right now, about now, 2-year very strong cycle. And it's also, coincidentally, it's also positive seasonality for natural gas. Plus, it hit my all my cycle targets for down. So normally, when you don't have more down targets, it should turn up. And whether it's today or within a month, but it's going to go up. And gold is also going to go up next few months after this consolidation. It's in a temporary downturn, but I don't remember exactly the length of the cycle.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. Natural gas follows that cycle very closely, more than just about any other commodity, and yet the traders call trading natural gas the widowmaker.
That's correct. That's right.
But very closely adheres to the cycles. Hey, what about food? They've been down wheat and corn and all of that good stuff.
I just tweeted about, sorry.
Yeah, and tell us your latest.
I just tweeted last night on corn. I think it's hitting the cycle low, major cycle low, and it's gonna be in a 2-year up phase. And wheat too. Wheat is still bottoming, but any week from now and end of March, it should bottom and should have 1+ year, very strong cycle. I mean, half cycle, 1+ year, 2-year cycle overall.
Yeah, interesting. So, hey, when you started your cycle research, was there any cycle that you uncovered or found evidence of that really surprised you?
Well, I started just a long time ago, when I was doing my master's thesis. That was like almost 40 years ago.
Let's not date ourselves. Our cycles. Let's not give our cycles away.
So I was actually already then surprised how that sunspot cycle is connected with different cycles on Earth. Electromagnetic cycles, which really affects us a lot. But searching these financial market cycles, I couldn't say that I discovered many new ones. I found 1.75-year cycle that seems nobody noticed before. But otherwise, I just verified what other people found out. And what was a little bit surprising to me, that there are several of these cycles that are very significant and prominent in financial markets that are not harmonically related. Like, for example, there is a 4-year cycle and then 7-year cycle, very prominent, but it's not harmonic to almost any other cycle. There is 28-year cycle, so but people don't notice it very much. And then 11-year cycle is not harmonic with 7 nor 4. So all the original cycle theories from Dewey and Hurst and other guys were that all cycles are harmonics, factor of 2 or factor of 3. I found that's not the case. And I usually find 2 sets of cycles that are harmonics, but not mutually with each other. And then some single players like 11-year.
Yeah. And you would think like all the agricultural commodities, their cycles would be harmonic, but yet they're not. They're independent, right? Like cotton could be moving one way and corn and wheat could be moving another. Even corn and wheat can be moving opposite ways, and you would think they'd be part of the same cycle.
That's a little bit surprising because Most of these commodities should be tied to that 7-year cycle. If you remember, that 7-year cycle was prominent in Jewish culture, but also in old Indian culture. Vedas, Vedas talked about 7-year cycle. That was agricultural cycle. Every 7 years there was a terrible drought that, nothing worked. And, people also almost forgot about, because agriculture is not, main part of our society anymore. So people forgot about that cycle.
And the debt cycle, every 7 years they'd have a Jubilee, and the slaves, their debts would be forgiven. And then you'd have the grand cycle, the 49-year grand Jubilee. And
exactly.
Maybe we really haven't gotten away from that. I mean, when you look at the world's problems and the debt, there's going to have to be a Jubilee at some point. It's unsustainable at the current rate, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's what some people are talking about. And I don't know about that. As you see with progress in the more developed parts of the world, birth rates are not so great. So, population is going down. So as the rest of the world develops, that problem will be solved by itself.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I think you're right. But the government's out of control spending and debt. It's not just the United States, although we're the leader of it. It's virtually every country in the world. And I think that cycle is coming to an end as well, huh?
I definitely think so.
And the superpower cycle over the years, that runs its course as well, right?
That's true. That's Dalia was actually talking about that a lot, about superpower cycle. He has a book. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Ray Dalio, yeah.
Yeah, Ray, sure. Yeah, you got a guy like him, you really have to pay attention when he says something. So, hey, it's Bravo Cycles. The link's in the show notes. Brana, really appreciate you coming on, sharing your wisdom. I always like to see people who've been doing these things for decades, because you have a body of work that lends more credibility, and that you're ready to adjust theories, cycles, intervals where necessary. I think that's crucial. If you got a question for Dr. Brana or myself, just shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. While you're at the site, the show notes on financialsurvivalnetwork.com, please sign up for your free newsletter. Hey, Brana, it's been a real pleasure. We're definitely going to have you back on.
Pleasure was all mine.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.